It is the morning sports desk for Thursday, the 25th of April. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There is Corey Tackman. Corey, a lot of stuff going on. I want to get your thoughts on being at the Target Center on Tuesday night. I want to get your NFL draft thoughts. But first, we have a little bit of a game to talk about.
Yeah, Park Region Conference softball on the air this afternoon. We've kind of got a double header of action on KWAD with the Twins, and then softball. You've got all the action, CJ. Who you got?
So we have Wadena Deer Creek at Menahga, Park Region Conference softball, 4:15 pregame, 4:30 first pitch on 101.7 FM and AM 920 KWAD, a rematch of when these two teams played each other, something along the lines of a 3-2 victory for Wadena Deer Creek, a 4-5 victory, 3-4. It was a one-run victory. It was down to the wire early season. These two teams now play each other a couple weeks from that point. So it'll be interesting to see what the carryover effect is. That game was also played on a Tuesday now compared to this game, which is played later in the week. See how that matches up scheduling-wise. Just overall, Corey, I think it should be a good softball game. These two teams went close last time, and we'll just kind of see how things shape up. Menahga softball hasn't had quite the start to the year that they've wanted, and obviously moving up into Class 2A. Not only is this a Park Region Conference importance for them, but also a section importance for QRF and all that good stuff for Section 8AA standings. For Wadena Deer Creek, they've been having a nice start to the year. They're 8-2, 1-0 in Section 8AA with that win over Menahga. They're 6-2 in the Park Region Conference. They are 4-1 on their home field, 2-1 on the road, 2-0 in neutral site games. And Wadena Deer Creek, that offense, something that's been helping them out in a doubleheader with Bertha Hewitt Verndale combined in those two games. They scored 19 runs. So that offense starting to gel a little bit, and we'll see if they can kind of keep that going against Menahga tonight, or this afternoon, I should say. 4:15 pregame, 4:30 first pitch, 101.7 FM, AM 920, KWAD. Also online worldwide at WDenaRadio.com/KWAD. It's going to be a fun one to get to call that rematch and see the back and forth effect that Coach Carlson and Coach Umland have for those two squads this afternoon. Still in that spring and fall, or still in that winter and fall sports brain where I always go tonight.
Today.
When I recorded that promo that's on the air right now, so many times I had to go back. It's like, join me tonight. No, it'll be too late if you're waiting until it gets nighttime. You will miss the game. I am sorry.
Let's do a radio programming sort of 101 behind the scenes. Just skip it and give the time. Everybody knows. People will assume you don't mean 4:15 in the morning.
Well, there might be somebody.
Nobody's showing up to the field in Menahga at 4:15 in the morning for a softball game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Somebody wakes up at 4 a.m. Why are the lights on? Oh no, the game's starting.
Yes. It's never going to happen. 4:15 pregame, 4:30 first pitch. We get it. All right. So there you go. Okay. Corey, I want to get your thoughts on Target Center. Give me the timeline. Just give me a timeline, beginning to end of your Tuesday afternoon into evening. So I get to the cities about 4:00 to Anoka. I drop my car off there and ride with two of my buddies in. We go out to eat before the game. And
where'd you go? I want to know.
Red Cow.
Oh, fancy.
And I had the Tennessee chicken sandwich, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And with the risk of sounding obvious, like everyone down. So the Twins were also starting at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, Target Field and Target Center pretty close to each other.
Yeah, share parking.
So there was just like good atmosphere downtown anyway, because both of these things were happening at the same time. And I have not been to a lot of Timberwolves games in my life. This was the third game I'd ever been to. But the feeling
was very similar to the feelings I would get around Twins games, which is you look around when you're walking around, maybe you're going out beforehand, whatever. When you go to a Twins game, everybody there and around Minneapolis is in Twin stuff. Well, on Tuesday night, they were all in Timberwolves gear. I mean, I just wasn't sure what to expect, you know. And we walked into Red Cow, and there were 20 jerseys, 20 Ant jerseys, or it was a whiteout. So people were in their white Timberwolves jerseys or sweatshirts or T-shirts or whatever. I mean, just everybody in downtown was in Timberwolves stuff. It was really cool. We got in early, maybe 45 minutes, a half an hour before tip, and we climbed Mount Everest all the way to the top of the Target Center. I think we were 10 rows from the top, and everyone had a T-shirt on their chair to wear. There was a towel also on everybody's chair.
I saw them.
Yeah, they were cool. And before the game, you know, they've got their like Timberwolves crew, their PR crew is hyping everybody up on the big screen, on the Jumbotron, whatever. And they were doing a hilarious thing, which was if you did not put on your white T-shirt, the camera would focus on you, and then the PA guy would be like, put your shirt on. This is a whiteout.
I love it.
And then the people would finally notice and be like, come on, I got my green Karl Anthony Towns jersey on. And the guy in the mic would go, we'll wait. And it would stay on that person. There were a couple people where the camera stayed on them for 5 minutes, which is really awkward and a long time. And people in the audience in the stands would start like, come on, like, let's go, let's put the shirt on. The guy in the mic, like, they were just calling out they were calling out their own fans. It was the funniest thing ever. And
for lack of a better term, bullying works.
Yeah, totally. It was really cool. And then they would show a Phoenix person who would, you know, they'd give the jersey pop or whatever, and everybody would just boo the daylights out of them. And it was very collegiate. Everybody's dressing up the same, very high schoolish. You know what I mean? Like, it's 20,000 people in a student section, basically, is what this turned into. It was an unbelievable atmosphere. We were way up high, but you could see beautifully. You know, from that high up, you could see how the court opens itself up or closes itself down. The Timberwolves played unbelievable defense, which was awesome to watch. We all know by now Jaden had a great game. Connolly had a great game. Booker and Durant combined for under 40 points, I believe, I think it was 18 and 15 for the two.
Something like that, yeah.
It was awesome, man. And then they won when it was all said and done, and you just, like, everybody skips out of there arm in arm, like you're off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz. It was cool. It was cool. It was cool. It was so fun. Everyone should go to a playoff Timberwolves game and have them win.
It's awesome. In terms of post-game crowd stuff, like for the Twins games, it was the exact same way. The amount of vibes in that stadium throughout the entire game at Target Field, when in the game one, when everybody's like, at first there was the nervousness of like, they haven't won a playoff game in forever. When Royce Lewis hit that home run, the whole stadium was like, oh no, we're winning this game. And the whole like stadium is chanting Gosman at the starting pitcher for Toronto. You could just tell everybody's just having fun. Everybody was loose, and it felt like that at the Target Center. Everybody was like insane, but like loose of like, there's no way we're not winning this game. Even with how bad the Timberwolves offense was in the first half, there was no, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the Target Center was still rocking. Like there was no nervous energy in that building.
No, there was weird, right? They jumped out to a really quick start. Offense got weird. Phoenix seemed to get every call.
Yeah, there's a lot of reps you suck chants. Were you a part of those, Corey?
No comment. You looked up and you're like, well, you're only down 1 at the half, and it felt like a win. So you're right, it wasn't a nervous energy. It wasn't like, oh my God, nothing's going our way and we're losing. You looked up and it was 51-50 at half, and you could tell everyone just like, we're only down 1. They scored at the end of this late, right. I think just a few seconds left. I don't remember. And then they scored at the end of the third quarter also. So they had good ends of quarters, really, which helped kind of take the load off. And then Carl didn't play essentially the whole first half. Ant had a weird first half. He had a weird entire game. But when you're only down by 1 and the guys who are supposed to do it aren't doing it, you feel pretty good about how this is going to turn itself around. And then they just really hunkered down and played such good defense.
I mean, their defense is amazing. They held the Suns to under 100 points in 2 games. And the Suns offense is good. People kind of forget that. They had a good offense. And not only did Jaden McDaniels having a nice game, just good, because there's a lot of people in this fan base that want to dog Jaden McDaniels for some reason. And I don't get it, because he's just as young as Edwards, and Edwards is the superstar, but Jaden McDaniels is a very good player who's only getting better. And the best thing about this game, Corey, was it made Anthony Edwards look like a goddamn prophet.
So, they got KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels.
They got KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels. That made that it's everybody, that was a throwaway line that everybody kind of clowned him for a year ago. And now all of a sudden everybody's bringing it up again. And they asked Jaden McDaniels about it after the game, and he just said, Ant knows what he's talking about.
He was good. I mean, I get why people get on McDaniels a little bit.
I mean, he does he gets a little emotional out there.
Well, and his numbers statistically are worse this year than they were a year ago. I think his 3-point shooting percentage is down. He was near 40% a year ago, and he's like a 34% 3-point shooter this year. Those numbers are down. He's really good on defense. He's wildly inconsistent on offense. It was awesome to see him score all those points. He doesn't do that every night. As a matter of fact, I think he more than doubled his average. I think he averages 10 points a game. So he's got some growing still to do on the offensive end.
Right.
Where most of us jump the gun is that, well, Anthony Edwards is making his move. Why isn't Jaden? Well, that's because Anthony Edwards, we all project to be kind of a super freak. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Jaden is probably not ever going to be a super freak, but he could turn it. He will slowly continue, hopefully, to develop and get a little better. Speaking of Ant, even though he was weird offensively, scoring wise, man, he did some things otherwise with the ball in his hands that were just so impressive. He showed really good patience and diligence with the ball in his hand.
Really well.
The double teams would come and he would let them get to him before making the right pass. I can't remember. It was in the second quarter. I can't remember what time, but you could see it. He wanted to just start, and then he recognized what they were doing. He allowed that double team to get to him. He dropped off a beautiful pass, I think, to the free throw line or elbow. And that player, made one. If it were hockey, Ant would have gotten a half assist. You know what I mean? He got a hockey assist on that play because he allowed everything to just develop. He wasn't just full steam ahead. And then he played really good defense too, like everybody did. Rudy was really good. Carl played good defense.
What are you talking about? I was reliably informed Rudy Gobert was going to get ran off the floor in the playoffs.
He's been awesome. He's been awesome in these playoffs so far, and was really all of them. Like the number of times, it wasn't often, but Rudy would get switched on to KD or Booker. Carl would get switched on to him, and they held their own, which sounds like a backhanded compliment, but is is not. It's just a regular compliment. They really played well. I think I heard after the game that Booker and Durant were 0 for 6 with Rudy when Rudy got switched onto him.
Really?
Yeah.
Pretty good. There's something else. I saw this tweet from somebody who was at the game, and they talked about how the entire target center, basically when Anthony Edwards has the ball, and you just kind of know, like, you know, sometimes even from watching on TV when Anthony Edwards has the ball, and you know, like, oh, this is going to be one where Ant's like, he's just shooting the ball, like he's not passing. And when he makes it, I think he had one from like, not the top of the key 3-point line, but like top of the key from the free throw line, like that in between part. And he like had the fadeaway shot. I think it was in the fourth quarter. Like, could you just feel that when he's got the ball and you know he's about to make a move? How is the target center?
Yeah, I mean, you from where we were, you can see all these things developing, right? Like, so because we're so high up, and yeah, there are these moments where everybody starts standing up. There was a dump off pass to Rudy where he just came soaring in for a dunk late in the game. Must have been fourth quarter. And everybody I was sitting with, there were 4 of us from college who were sitting together, and we were all standing up when Rudy started his cut towards the hoop because we could see it. He didn't even have the ball yet, and we knew what was going to happen. So yeah, there you can just see these things start to develop, and Ant is a little. Remember when Miguel Sano was doing Miguel Sano things and projected to be this unbelievable power hitter early? I think it was his rookie year. Like if Miguel Sano was coming up, you stayed to why? Like, I'll go to the bathroom after this at bat because you just never know. When Ant has the ball in his hands, there's this expectation of I can't look away because you just never know when something special is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
It's great, man. I was just at a game not that many weeks ago, and it was a really great atmosphere and a really great game. And this was just ratcheted up, as you can imagine, in a playoff game that meant a lot. There were a lot of like intangible things that we've talked about many times with the Wolves. You don't know these milestones exist until the next one pops up. Like the Wolves are up 1-0 in a series. How are they going to respond when presumably Phoenix is going to throw the entire kitchen sink at them? How are the Wolves going to handle it? How is Ant going to handle it? How is Carl going to handle it? How is what's going to happen? And then they just answered the bell as they've done all season long. Another hurdle presents itself and they don't jump over it. They just like casually just step over it and move on to the next thing. It
was business.
It's a fascinating thing to watch and a kind of an unreal thing to watch for a Minnesota sports team in our lives. Like, they're just, every time it's important, they have found a way to accept the importantness of the moment, you know?
Right. And not only that, like they just treated it like a game in a way. So in the second quarter, they weren't getting any calls. Things were not going their way. It was ugly out there. Jaden McDaniels shoves Devin Booker, gets a tech. That's one where the Wolves team, even a year ago, gets off the rails and the crowd's chanting refs who suck. And they like feed into that and they just get a little too amped up and a little too ambitious. And that didn't happen. They collected themselves, finished the second quarter strong, and came out in the third quarter and punched Phoenix in the mouth and just took care of business the rest of the game. And that's something that a year ago's team with pretty much the same players don't do that. Am I off the ball here on that one?
No, they've weirdly all been there now.
Mm-hmm.
They've weirdly, every single one of them has been in this spot before. So, the moment's not too big for him anymore. You don't like McDaniels getting a tech, but also those two guys were that, again, you could see plays develop. That was coming. there was going to be a whistle. Everyone in the stadium was just waiting for it to happen because they had bumped each other, I think, twice kind of leading up to that point, and McDaniels retaliated, and that's going to be a tech every single time. But no, yeah, man, they've been there now, and they've all been there together. So I think they understand, and they have an understanding more of what's at stake.
Right. And okay, this moves into my last point about the Timberwolves, and then we'll move on to talk Vikings draft stuff. So hang with us here. But the Timberwolves are up 2-0 in a playoff series for the first time in 20 years. It hasn't happened since the opening round of the 2004 playoffs against the Denver Nuggets. That's important for them to get up 2-0 in the series. Another important thing is the momentum and the wins for the Wolves keep coming on and off the court because Naz Reid won NBA's 6th Man of the Year award. He just beat out Malik Monk. He got a few more first place votes. They tied in second and third place votes, but they, in terms of first place votes, Naz got more, and he ends up winning. Naz Reid, your 6th Man of the Year. As something that comes to no shock to Timberwolves fans, all I have to say, Corey, because we talk about Naz all the time, Naz Reid.
Naz Reid.
Naz Reid. Naz Reid. Naz Reid. What more do you want? I mean, that's from what he's done, from developing himself from an undrafted player to becoming, oh, this guy could maybe be something. Like, he could maybe be a rotational guy. And then to, oh, okay, cool, this is a legit guy off the bench, to this guy not only is 6th Man of the Year, he only started, I think, maybe 13, 15 games all year, somewhere in there, was under 20. And every single time, everybody goes, I'm impressed with Naz. And from where that guy was, there was a bit of a question. I know there were some fans who were like, is it worth paying all the money to keep Naz Reid in Minnesota? And Naz Reid could have left and gotten money elsewhere. He decided to stay in Minnesota, and it's just worked out. Like, everybody,
I disagree. I don't think anybody questioned whether they should keep him. I think everybody wanted him. Right. I think Timberwolves fans wanted Naz Reid around.
I'm calling out one weird account. I think I can't remember what the account is, but they said they should let Naz go and let Luka Garza take his minutes. So, this year.
Yeah,
wrong. Very wrong.
They were very wrong, and I think most people wanted Naz. Naz represents everything in a basketball player that most blue-collar Minnesotans want out of all of their athletes. A guy who persevered and worked hard through his shortcomings to become good. And that's just what you want out of your guys. And to defend him also, because there's a little bit, uproar is too strong of a word. There's a little pushback because Malik Monk came in second.
Maybe a lot of fans
for the second year in a row. If Malik Monk wouldn't have started as many games as he did this year, he would have gotten it and should have gotten it. But he was effectively a starter for them all season with the injuries that Sacramento had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on depth charts, he was the 6th man. That is true. But he started just way too much. He just started way too many games, and it's the 6th Man of the Year. It's the guy who's the most productive, best player off the bench. And Naz comes off the bench with the exception of, about 3 weeks.
Right, exactly. And Naz Reid also was on a team that won more games. Like, they were a better team. And they don't win as many games as they do without Naz Reid being on this basketball team. So, in closing argument, Naz Reid.
Naz Reid.
2 words. Naz Reid. Okay, here we go. Talking about the NFL draft. It's tonight, Corey. Are you ready?
I can't wait.
This is the most anticipated draft that I've had for a Minnesota Vikings team since 2014, 10 years ago, because that was the last time they were going to pick a quarterback. Like, we knew coming in, they were going to take a quarterback. It wasn't like last year and even a couple of years ago. And like, there have been drafts where it's like, I don't know, they could draft a quarterback here. This is kind of intriguing. No, like this in 2014 were the last 2 years where you just knew they're going to pick their quarterback of the future tonight.
Was that the Teddy Bridgewater?
Yes, it was the Teddy Bridgewater draft.
That was really fun. That was a fun draft.
That was a fun draft too. And because there were a lot of different quarterback options. There was Johnny Manziel, Blake Bortles, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Teddy Bridgewater, and Garoppolo and Carr are still in the league today. Bridgewater retired, but Bridgewater still would have been in the league if he didn't want to retire. And it's fascinating to see what the Vikings could do tonight because there's so many different avenues. We've talked about Drake May. We've talked about Jaden McDaniels. I mentioned on the program yesterday, I'm nervous if the Vikings take McCarthy. I'm not that I'm not on board, but I'm nervous. But it's the Stephen A meme where he's like, Skip, I'm nervous. That's where I'm at right now with that. But there has been a report out of NBC Sports. Do you want me to tell it to you? Can you handle the truth, Corey?
Nah, next point.
New England is expected to take UNC quarterback Drake May, barring any major trade offer, according to NBC Sports. Now, you can interpret that as they're telling people they're going to take Drake May, or they're telling the Vikings, include that extra first rounder, Minnesota. Come on, we're not quite there yet. We're going to take him. We'll do it. But sometime we'll see. This is all speculation and smoke screens and whatever. But they're
going to take Drake May?
The Patriots? Yeah, I think so too. I think that was my gut level. You know, like the NFL draft process happens, and at the end of the college football season, you're like, yeah, this is where I think things will happen. And you spend the next couple months telling yourselves all the different things can happen. And then you just end up settling back to what you kind of believed at the very beginning anyways. That's where I'm at. Where I'm at is I'm nervous about Nixon McCarthy. I'm high on Penix, and I don't think Drake May is getting to the Vikings. So let's say the Patriots take Drake May at 3. If you're the Minnesota Vikings, Corey, what do? Do you trade up for McCarthy, or do you kind of let the board come to you and maybe plan on sticking and picking at 11?
Before I answer that, did you hear the one rumor going around that the Vikings are going to trade with the Chargers for Justin Herbert?
Yeah, completely unserious. I think did you see Adam Schefter? Because ESPN bet, Mike Greenberg of ESPN was trying to like hype up an ESPN bet. And Schefter basically was like, I don't know where people are hearing that from. Because I've heard some people throw this out there, like Jim Harbaugh. I mean, JJ McCarthy was a college coach. Like Jim Harbaugh doesn't take the Chargers job because it's the Chargers. He takes the Chargers job because you already have a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Why? Whatever. I'm not believing that for a second. So any Vikings fans who think we're getting Herbert are being delusional.
I already forgot. What was your question? What was I supposed to answer?
So would you trade up if you're Kwesi and Drake May goes off the board at 3? Are you trading up with the Cardinals or the Chargers at 4 and 5? Or are you more like, you know what? I'm going to just wait at 11.
Well, here's another thing I've seen. If Drake May is not available, the Vikings are willing to, the name they said was get Bo Nix.
Bo Nix has been the name.
At 11 or 23, you try to read the room basically, which is, whatever. That's fine. I have said this many, many times going back to our first draft conversation, and I will say it again now. The Vikings have 1,000 options in front of them. Every single one of them seems to be good. You just hope they don't screw up whatever those options are.
Right.
But if the Vikings pick at number 11 and number 23, and neither of them are quarterbacks because all the other quarterbacks just happen to go before the Vikings can get to them, the Vikings are going to get unbelievable players.
Right. They are.
They're going to get unbelievable players in this draft no matter what happens. I don't think, unless they pick incorrectly, which is in play for every team and every organization, but they're going to get guys who should and could potentially be with a franchise for the next decade and a half.
Right. Now, the only thing I'll say is I think they need to come out of here with a quarterback. Because there's just no way you can start Sam Darnold for a whole year. And I'm pretty high on Sam Darnold. But, man, if you're Kwesi and you go back to ownership and you tell them, yeah, sorry, we didn't quite get you that franchise quarterback, they're not going to, because they don't have a second-round pick or a third-round pick. So they're not like, they'd have to trade back in. Like, that's going to be a very tense post-draft meeting with ownership if you're Kwesi. if you don't come away with that franchise quarterback, especially after letting Kirk Cousins walk out the door. So, which is why I think they're going to take one, right? And it maybe means, and you're right, they could come away with 2 unbelievable players, because that means like 5 quarterbacks have gone off the board, a bunch of wide receivers. There's plenty of good defensive players just sitting there for the Vikings to take, which is why if they stick and pick, and let's say they take Bo Nix at 11, let's say it is that guy, well, you can sit back at 23 and you can get a pretty good corner. And the Vikings need a number 1 corner. And even though I'm not high on Bo Nix, and this is the thing with this quarterbacks in the draft. If you take, like, let's say Bo Nix went out next year, he's probably the second best quarterback. Let's say Michael Penix, like, forget the age thing. Just if they were in next year's class right now doesn't look particularly strong. Like Quinn Ewers is the top guy. That's it. Like, there's plenty of quarterbacks where if this were last year's draft, if Bo Nix went out last year, he probably is the 3rd quarterback taken ahead of Richardson, or maybe the 4th. Like, this is a good draft for quarterbacks, which means just because the Vikings take the 4th quarterback of the draft doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be a bust. And that's where I think if I'm the Vikings and Drake May goes 3, I'm not trading up. At the very least, not until, like, if McCarthy goes off the board, and let's say the Broncos trade up for McCarthy at 7 with the Titans, and I'm worried the Raiders may trade up, or I'm worried the Giants may take Bo Nix or Michael Penix or something. Maybe you work to try and trade up. But at this point, I think if May is gone at 3, just stick and pick at 11 and get your quarterback of the future. Use that extra 1st-round pick to add somebody to the defense. And I'm feeling pretty good about it, because no matter what quarterback you draft, they're going to have Justin Jefferson throwing them the football. They're going to have Jordan Addison, or they're going to throw the football to Justin Jefferson. You have Jordan Addison. Hawkinson's going to come back. You have Aaron Jones, and you have an offensive play caller in Kevin O'Connell who can help you out. This is a good situation. Drake May is obviously the golden goose, but you can make it work with any of these quarterbacks in this draft.
I would feel totally differently about all of this if the Vikings didn't have the 23rd pick also.
Yeah.
I would feel totally different. I would fight someone who said you should take Bo Nix at 11 or Penix at 11.
Yeah.
If you didn't also have the 23rd pick. But they also have the 23rd pick, which is a really important addition to this entire process. So yes, go ahead in that situation and absolutely do it. I'm fascinated to see what the Vikings do. I've now read and listened to a couple of things that make me entirely convinced the team to watch is going to be the Giants.
Yeah,
because I
mess everything up.
I think they're going to be the most and I'm stealing this. This is not an original thought. They're the team that's going to be the most desperate. Their people in charge are more likely to lose their jobs if things don't go well and they don't try to give themselves the year and the safety net of a rookie quarterback.
Right.
So I think if anybody is going to overpay to move up, to make a move, to get somebody, it's probably going to be the Giants. And because the Vikings have the 11th and 23rd, I'm totally okay with them doing that.
Yeah.
Like they've allowed them, they have all of this capital and all of this opportunity to make a move and put together a very good package to make that move. And if somebody wants to overdo it, they have this unbelievable package that they can now use to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I just think that no matter what, we're gonna, it might even be that when the night is over, we're gonna be like, I can't believe they didn't come away with one of those courts. Like it might feel sour, and in 8 years, we're gonna be like, remember in 2024 when the Vikings didn't get a quarterback, but they've got an all-pro corner and a D tackle. That you know what I mean?
Right.
Like that I can just see that projection as a homer in a decade's time.
I mean, go back to 2014. Remember, a lot of fans wanted Manziel. There was Bortles. There's whatever. Teddy Bridgewater was taken with the 32nd overall pick. But who did the Vikings take at 11? They took Anthony Barr, who's a very good player for them. Obviously, the way there's more quarterback needy teams in this draft than there was in 2014, but the point is, if you can come away with a good quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater wasn't the most talented quarterback in that class, but the team around him was set up to succeed, and he was good at driving that bus. And Anthony Barr allowed them a defensive chip. And if you get a quarterback that can drive that bus with that offense, you're not getting the keys to a comfy sedan. You're getting the keys to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, 2 bookend tackles, Aaron Jones, and Kevin O'Connell. You're getting a great setup. You're getting Lamborghini keys at that point. And
having Darnold in the picture, I mean, you cannot hitch your long-term wagon to Sam Darnold. I understand that, but it does allow them the opportunity to be pragmatic about their decision-making.
Yes. You don't have to throw that rookie quarterback into the fire.
The Vikings are not desperate. There are other teams, the Giants, probably, Denver, probably, definitely.
Zach Wilson now, they're all set.
There are other teams that are desperate. I don't know. The Vikings are a good team anyway. We all think that they were better than their record, right? Mm-hmm. The Vikings they're going to be fine. I don't think they're desperate. This is like, hey, we got a chance to jumpstart something here, right, if we can get a Drake May.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Gut level, Corey. Just tell me who you think the Vikings end up coming away with. Gut level, I've gone back and forth because I feel like they're out. I would like to take Penix. That would be my guy, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot of steam. Now, the Vikings aren't a leaky organization. They keep things pretty close to the vest, like the 49ers, where Kwesi, one of the organizations he came from, was San Francisco. They didn't leak out Trey Lance. Was going to get drafted 3. The only thing we knew about was until they announced the pick. So, but on a gut level, Corey, who are the Vikings taking? Tomorrow morning, who are we talking about as being the Vikings QB of the future? In your bones, who do you have?
Well, because there's been so much quarterback talk around the Vikings, I don't know who the top DBs are, or the top D tackles, or the top, you know what I mean? I don't know those names.
You got quarterback focus right now.
Yes, but tomorrow I think we're talking about a top DB in the draft, and either Nix or Penix. I think that's who we're talking about.
All right, stake your claim as a Nix or Penix.
If they go quarterback at 11, it's Nix. If it's quarterback at 23, it's Penix.
Fascinating. Okay, I like it.
That's a half step forward from your question.
I think it ends up being JJ McCarthy. Either McCarthy or Nix. And I'm going back and forth on this because there's reports Peyton Manning said the Broncos really like McCarthy. And I could see Sean Payton going, I don't care, trade whatever, just give me my quarterback and I can make it work. I made it work with Drew Brees. If I can just get that quarterback, I'm fine.
Making it work with a Hall of Famer is a little bit of an understatement.
Well, in Sean Payton's mind, he built Drew Brees. You know what I mean? In Bill Belichick's mind, he built Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Because they're coaches and they all have egos. But I think the Broncos are more desperate, whereas I think if the Vikings don't get May, I think they're content sticking and picking because of their situation. The Broncos are a little more, we need to get our guy. And that's where I think they could jump up and get McCarthy. And I wouldn't, honestly, if they want McCarthy, they can have McCarthy. I'm not super high on JJ. So I think it's, in my heart of hearts, I'd like to take Michael Penix. I'm weirdly feeling like it's going to be McCarthy or Nix. And since you said Nix in one of them, I'm going to say McCarthy. I weirdly feel like it's going to be McCarthy, but I don't know. Here's the thing. Despite the fact that I'm weird about every quarterback except for Drake May, there's whoever the quarterback the Vikings draft, you can convince me, and this isn't just a homer talking, but you can convince me that they can make it work.
How about this? How about a DB and a D tackle, and then in the 4th round, Spencer Rattler? There's your quarterback.
I'm leading the Fire Kwesi charge. Spencer Rattler, the guy who ran a 40 in 5 seconds. He's got great arm talent, but man, he stinks. He couldn't make it work he got washed out of Lincoln Riley's offense at Oklahoma.
That's because Caleb Williams was there.
Yeah.
No, Spencer Rattler stinks. He's a total head case.
Yeah, he's a head. That's the thing. It's not that he wasn't talented. He's a head case. And I'm not necessarily in on that. But okay. Some cornerback names to watch. There's Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama.
Yep, I'm already in him. I want him.
Already in. Byron Murphy, defensive rusher out of Texas.
Yep.
Dallas Turner, an edge rusher out of Texas. There's a guy who's got like a Polynesian name out of UCLA who's a really potentially good, potentially high first round, but could sit for the Vikings at 23. I think if the Vikings go defense, it's going to be edge rusher or corner. And I would prefer them to take a corner just because I think you're going to play a lot better. I don't know. I'd just rather see him. You're going to more likely than not get a better corner prospect in the back end of the first round than you will an edge rusher. Typically the high end edge rushers are taken pretty early. Maybe this draft shakes things up, but I think if the Vikings come away with a quarterback and a cornerback, I think I'm pretty happy with where the franchise is sitting. So there you go. Our final draft predictions. And we'll see what happens when we talk tomorrow. Scheduled on the podcast, we're going to talk with Aaron Anderson, Activities Director of Purim, for our Activities Director check-in, so be sure to tune in for that as well. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Thursday, April 25th.